My name is Clara Bennett, and I'm 32 years old. For 5 years, I ran every number, fixed every loss, and kept our family company afloat while everyone else took the profits and the praise. Then I sat in a cramped conference room at our annual shareholder meeting and listened to our family lawyer announce that my parents had rewritten every single asset away from me. The company I'd rebuilt from the ground up, the rental properties, the savings portfolio my late grandfather built, every last penny and deed went to my 22-year-old nephew, Jax. Not a single share, not a single dollar, not a single property was left for me. My parents sat beside me the entire time, calm and unblinking. My mom even patted my arm like she was comforting me through a minor inconvenience. So I did something quiet, something no one in my self-serving family noticed for 30 whole days. I paused every single financial transfer I'd been making to keep their lives and the failing family business upright. And when my mom finally texted me begging for help when the bills piled up, my reply took 5 seconds to type, and it shattered the fake, grateful family facade I'd maintained for half a decade. What happened next split our family apart at the seams, turned every lie they'd told into public truth, and stripped away every obligation I'd ever carried for people who never saw me as a daughter, only a tool. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where quiet overachievers finally stop paying for everyone else's greed. Grab your drink, settle in, and drop a comment below where you're watching from today. If you love stories about family betrayal, silent boundaries, and long overdue justice, subscribe now, because this story starts on a rainy Monday in the middle of quarterly audits. It all began with a short, sweet text from my dad 3 weeks before the shareholder meeting. Annual meeting this Monday. Be there early, we're finalizing the company legacy. Read that, and a stupid, hopeful warmth bloomed in my chest. For 5 years, I'd been the only one working to save our family's legacy, and I thought finally, they were going to acknowledge it that I'm a senior financial analyst, the only person in my family who understands profit margins, loss reports, and tax structuring. While everyone else partied on family profits, I spent every quarter buried in spreadsheets, fixing the mistakes my dad and my nephew made year after year. I took the morning off work, a rare luxury in my busy audit season, and drove 20 minutes to the family company's small office downtown. I carried a thick folder, color-coded and organized, filled with quarterly reports, loss mitigation plans, property asset breakdowns, and tax-saving strategies I'd spent weeks drafting. I genuinely thought I was showing up to collaborate, to lock in the company's future, to finally be recognized as the backbone of the family business. The office conference room smelled like old coffee and polished wood, the kind of space that feels respectable until you learn the people inside it are rotten to the core. I pushed open the glass door and froze mid-step. The entire room was already filled with people who had no business being at a critical shareholder meeting. My Aunt Marnie, Jax's mom, sat front and center, her designer purse perched on the table like a trophy. My nephew Jax leaned back in his chair, wearing a brand new designer jacket he'd bought on a company credit card I'd repeatedly warned my parents to cancel. My dad stared blankly at the wall, avoiding my eyes entirely. My mom smiled brightly, like we were gathered for a holiday dinner instead of a high-stakes asset redistribution. 3 glasses of water sat on the table, 3 printed packets of meeting documents, all for them. Nothing for me. No folder, no water, no seat saved. Our family lawyer, a sharp, quiet man named Mr. Hale, looked up from his stack of legal papers and nodded politely. Clara, thank you for coming. This meeting is to formalize the final legacy distribution for all family assets and company shares. It's not going to be easy for you. He didn't soften his tone, didn't sugarcoat a single word. He opened the official legal binder and read the terms aloud, clear and unwavering, like he was reciting a standard business contract instead of destroying my entire place in my family. My parents had amended the entire family trust and company shareholder agreement 6 months prior, in complete secrecy. All operating shares of the family company, all rental real estate assets, all investment savings, all business reserves, every asset accumulated over 30 years, was transferred in full sole ownership to Jax Bennett, my nephew. My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't move, didn't speak. I kept my hands folded in my lap, the way I do during corporate audits when I'm uncovering massive fraud. Then Mr. Hale read the final line. the one that burned deeper than any financial loss. No assets, shares, or monetary provisions are allocated to Clara Bennett, daughter and immediate family member. This exclusion is intentional and legally documented. Intentional. Not an oversight. Not a mistake. A deliberate choice. Mr. Hale explained the cold, clinical reason I'd been invited at all. We always advise full disclosure in family asset proceedings. It avoids future disputes and legal challenges. This is the kindest, most transparent method. Kind. Transparent. I nodded slowly, my body locked in polite compliance even as my chest fractured into 1,000 pieces. My mom reached over, wrapped her hand around mine, her grip warm and familiar, the same grip she'd used to convince me to sacrifice for the family for 5 straight years. Nothing changes, baby, she whispered softly. You'll still help run the company, still handle the books. That's what you're good at. That's who you are. I turned to my dad, the man who'd taught me to balance a checkbook at 16, who'd praised my financial talent my entire life. He still wouldn't meet my gaze. He stared at the framed family photo on the wall, avoiding the daughter who'd saved his failing business twice. Before I could ask a single question, my Aunt Marnie cut in, her tone practiced and smug, like she'd rehearsed this speech for months. We all agreed this is the fairest way, Clara, she said smoothly. Jax is the next generation of the family. He needs the assets to build a future. You're stable, you have your corporate job, you don't need the family fortune. Fair. That word haunted me for years after. To understand how twisted their version of fairness was, you have to go back 5 years, to the day I quit my high-paying corporate job to save our family name. Jax was 20 then, reckless and impulsive, fresh out of college with no work ethic, no financial sense, only a sense of entitlement. He'd been gifted a minor company role straight out of school, and within 6 months, he'd mismanaged client funds, overspent operational budgets, and pushed the family company to the brink of bankruptcy. The business was weeks away from closing its doors, all our rental properties weeks away from foreclosure, all family savings drained by Jax's careless spending. My parents panicked. They didn't call Jax to account. They didn't discipline him. They called me that I was 27, 5 years into a thriving finance career, on track for a massive promotion and a 6-figure salary. My parents begged me to come home, to take over the company finances, to fix the mess Jax created. They cried at my kitchen table, swore the family legacy would die without me, promised me full ownership and control of the company once it stabilized. It'll all be yours one day, they said. We trust you with everything. I believed them. I walked away from my dream job, my corporate benefits, my career growth, and dedicated every single day of my life to saving their business. For 5 years, I worked 60-hour weeks. I restructured the entire company budget. I negotiated with creditors to wipe out tens of thousands in Jax's debt. I raised client retention rates from 30% to 92%. I fixed every bad investment, closed every losing contract, rebuilt every broken system that while I worked non-stop, Jax did nothing. He showed up late, left early, charged luxury vacations and designer clothes to the company card, and took full credit for every profit I generated. Every quarterly win was celebrated as Jax's success. Every financial scare was fixed silently by me, with zero recognition, zero thanks. It wasn't just the company. I covered the family's monthly operational bills out of my own pocket when business profits lagged. I paid the property taxes on all the rental assets. I covered my parents' personal monthly expenses, their utility bills, their medical co-pays. I set up automatic monthly transfers, $2,800 every single month, to keep both the business and my family afloat, no questions asked, no complaints voiced that I downsized my apartment, skipped vacations, drove a 7-year-old car, and put every penny of my personal savings into propping up a family that was already planning to erase me. Twice in those 5 years, I asked my parents to formalize my ownership stake in writing. Twice I asked for a small percentage of shares to secure my future. And twice, my mom's face fell wounded, my dad sighed and looked away, and they repeated the same empty promise. Don't be cold and businesslike with family, Clara. The company will be yours. We don't need paperwork for love. Love. That empty, hollow word was scrawled all over the legal documents that just stripped me of everything in that conference room. Back in the present, I set my color-coded folder of recovery plans and financial projections on the polished table, and I did not open it. I'd spent weeks preparing to save their future, and they'd spent 6 months planning to erase mine. I asked one quiet, steady question, the same tone I use for corporate audits when I uncover deliberate fraud. Why? Again, my parents stayed silent. My Aunt Marnie answered for the entire family, her voice sharp with unmasked arrogance. Jax is family's future. He's young, he'll build on what your grandfather started. You're a woman with a stable career, you don't need family assets to survive. It's only fair the bloodline gets the legacy. My mom nodded in agreement, her soft smile never fading. Family assets stay with the family's next generation, honey. Jax will grow the business, keep our name alive. You can still work here, still be part of everything. Nothing changes for you. Jax leaned back in his chair, grinning faintly, and tossed out the final insult like it was a kindness. Yeah, Clara, you can still have your job here. No hard feelings. You're still part of the team. I looked around the table at every single one of them. My mom, who'd begged me to sacrifice my career. My dad, who'd taught me financial responsibility then rewarded greed over loyalty. My aunt, who'd spent years whispering lies about my selfishness. My nephew, who destroyed the business then inherited all my hard work. It was a balance sheet that would never reconcile, 5 years of my blood, sweat, and savings, balanced against 0 legal ownership, 0 gratitude, 0 respect. I stood up slowly, folded my unused folder closed, and thanked Mr. Hale for his time. I said I had client deadlines to meet, and for once, it wasn't an excuse. I was done giving my time to people who'd already written me out of their future. That I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. And my calm silence infuriated them more than any breakdown ever could. Marnie's jaw tightened, her polite smile snapping thin. My mom's eyes flickered with panic, like she'd expected me to beg, to plead, to fall apart so they could comfort me and keep using me. I walked out of the conference room, down the quiet office hallway, and out into the rainy parking lot. I was halfway to my car when my dad's voice called out behind me, hurried and guilty. He'd never chased me after a fight before. He jogged through the rain, his shoes splashing in puddles, and stopped just short of my car door, out of breath. Clara, wait, he panted, his voice rough. Your mom and Marnie made all the calls. Once they set their minds to something, there's no changing it. I couldn't stop them. That was his entire defense. 58 years old, the founder of the family company, and he was powerless against his wife and sister's greed. He'd watched me sacrifice everything for 5 years, watched Jax destroy the business, and he'd stayed silent. Anger and grief tangled tight in my chest, 2 opposing truths coexisting at once. He loved me, but he loved peace and family harmony more than he loved protecting me. He reached into his coat pocket and pressed a small, worn metal key into my palm. The key to the old grandfather's office at the back of the building, the quiet room where I'd spent countless late nights fixing their mistakes, where no one ever bothered to check on me. It's yours whenever you need it, he mumbled. A place to breathe. My dad had never said sorry to me in my life. He'd always used gestures instead of words, small, meaningless gifts to erase his failures. Before he could say anything else, his eyes darted up to the office window, where a curtain shifted. Marnie was watching us. He patted my car door twice, a nervous, habitual gesture, and turned to walk back inside, leaving me alone in the rain. That I slid into my driver's seat and set the old office key on my key ring, right next to the company access key I'd carried for 5 years. Seconds later, my phone lit up with a bank reminder, bright and unforgiving. Upcoming automatic transfer, $2,800, scheduled in 3 days for family business and personal bills. I stared at the screen for a long time, the rain streaking down my windshield blurring the numbers. I'm a financial analyst. I audit ledgers, reconcile losses, identify bad investments, and cut dead weight for a living. For 5 years, I'd never audited my own life. I'd never added up the endless transfers, the missed promotions, the lost savings, the sacrificed dreams. I'd never admitted that my loyalty was a non-performing asset, unredeemable and worthless. That night, back in my small apartment, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. I didn't make any impulsive decisions in anger. I've always known, never terminate a 5-year investment on a bad night of emotion. I waited until morning, until the fog of hurt cleared into sharp, clear precision. Saturday morning, I made my list, clean and itemized, like I was terminating a failing client contract. Item 1. Cancel the $2,800 monthly automatic transfers covering all family and business overhead. Item 2. Remove all family members from my shared business credit and expense accounts, effective immediately after the current billing cycle ended. I wasn't cruel enough to cut them off mid-month, but I was smart enough to end the free ride permanently. Item 3. Transfer all my personal emergency savings I'd reserved for company crises back into my personal account, reclaiming every penny I'd set aside to fix their mistakes. Item 4. Revoke my authorized signatory status on all family business accounts, removing my legal liability for their future failures. It took me 70 minutes to undo 5 years of self-sacrifice. 70 minutes to erase every obligation I'd ever held for a family that held no obligation for me. I sent no texts, made no calls, posted no announcements. They'd rewritten my future in a closed-door meeting without me. I rewrote my finances at my kitchen table without them. I didn't block a single number. Blocking is loud, vengeful, a reaction. I didn't want to react. I wanted to withdraw. I wanted to give them the exact silence and invisibility they'd given me for 5 years. Then I waited for the calendar to turn. The next 30 days were the cruelest proof of who my family truly was. Not one person called to check on me after the meeting. Not one text asking if I was okay, if I was hurt, if I needed to talk. For 30 days, I heard nothing from them. My mom sent 3 trivial messages total: a photo of Jax's new luxury truck, a forward of a family dinner invitation I wasn't formally invited to, and a comment about a neighbor's vacation photos. No acknowledgement of the meeting, no acknowledgement of my loss, no acknowledgement of my 5 years of work. For half a decade, I'd told myself I was loved, that my quiet hard work was seen and appreciated, that family loyalty mattered more than recognition. But 30 days of radio silence audited the truth perfectly. They didn't love me. They needed me. They needed my hands, my skills, my money, my endless willingness to fix their messes. Without a bill to pay or a crisis to fix, I didn't exist to them. Without my monthly transfers covering overhead, the company's cash reserve dried up fast. Their unpaid bills stacked up: office rent, employee salaries, utility costs, property taxes. I watched the days tick by, knowing every deadline, every late fee, every pending default. I knew their financial ruin better than they knew it themselves. The 28th of the month came and went. No text, no call. The grace period for their business loans expired. Still nothing. Then, on a gray, rainy Tuesday exactly 1 month after the shareholder meeting, my phone buzzed at my work desk mid-audit. Mom. The preview text was short, cold, transactional, no greeting, no warmth, no humanity. We can't cover our bills. That was it. After 5 years of endless sacrifice, 72 months of automatic transfers, endless late nights, endless unthanked labor, the only time she texted me was when my free money ran out. My coffee went cold beside my keyboard. I stared at the text for 10 full minutes, thinking of every promise, every empty, "it'll be yours," every "thank you someday," that never came. I typed out a long reply at first, paragraphs about 5 years of work, about the intentional exclusion, about the unfairness of rewarding greed over loyalty. I deleted it. I typed a shorter reply, listing every transfer, every sacrifice, every bill I'd covered. I deleted that too. I knew the truth: explaining yourself to people who benefit from your silence is just another form of payment. I was done paying. I typed 10 simple characters, the only honest reply left to give. Not my problem. I hit send, slid my phone into my desk drawer, and locked it, then finished my quarterly audit report with steady hands. My hands shook just a little, but my resolve didn't waver once that my phone started ringing 3 minutes later. It didn't stop for 3 straight days. The messages came in predictable stages, the 5 stages of family entitlement grief. Stage 1, disbelief. Clara, did you see my text? We can't pay our bills. Call me now. Stage 2, anger. This isn't funny. Stop being childish. Stage 3, guilt tripping, the oldest trick in their book. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay your family. Stage 4, emergency manipulation, the one they always saved for last. Your dad's stress is killing him. The company failing will destroy his health. How can you be so cruel? I answered one call that week, only because it was my mom, only because 32 years of familial wiring doesn't erase itself in a month. Her voice was calm, patronizing, the soft church tone she used to manipulate everyone. Clara, family doesn't keep score. You have to help us. That's what family does. I looked out my office window at the gray city skyline, at the buildings full of honest people who work hard and get rewarded for it. I spoke gently, but firmly. Then why did you keep score of who gets all the assets and who gets nothing? Why did you score my labor as free and Jax's mistakes as forgivable? She went quiet for 2 full seconds, caught off guard by my refusal to fold. Then she huffed, sharp and dismissive. We'll talk when you've calmed down from your tantrum. I hung up while she was still talking, quiet and unrushed, ending the conversation the way I should have ended all my obligations years ago. Undefeated in her pettiness, my mom screenshot my "not my problem" text and sent it straight to the entire family group chat. Within hours, the narrative was rewritten entirely. I was the selfish, ungrateful daughter who abandoned her dying family business over a petty grudge. Jax was the poor, wronged heir struggling to save the family legacy alone. No one mentioned my 5 years of unpaid labor. No one mentioned the secret asset transfer. No one mentioned Jax's reckless spending that broke the company in the first place. Quiet help is always invisible, and my invisible sacrifice became the perfect evidence of my selfishness. Relatives I rarely spoke to texted me judgmental paragraphs. Distant cousins unfollowed my social media. Family friends sent passive-aggressive messages about loyalty and gratitude. Only one person broke the toxic family pattern, my great-uncle Ray, my dad's quiet, honest uncle who'd watched everything unfold from the sidelines. He texted me one simple sentence: hard work don't get inherited, kiddo. Greed does. I'm proud of you. I cried in my office bathroom reading that text, the first time I'd let myself cry over any of it. 3 days later, Jax showed up at my corporate office. He walked into my lobby in his expensive jacket, hands stuffed in his pockets, putting on a humble, desperate act for the receptionist watching. He didn't greet me. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge any of my work. Clara, be reasonable, he said, loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. Just cover the bills for a couple more months until I get things sorted out. You know I'll pay you back. You can't let the family company fail. I stared at him blankly. What exactly have you sorted out so far, Jax? He hesitated, then dropped the fake humility entirely, revealing the entitlement underneath. He and his girlfriend had put a down payment on a luxury new house, a brand new sports car, and planned to take a month-long overseas vacation, all on the assumption that I'd keep covering the company bills indefinitely while he spent the inheritance he didn't earn. The company's mine now, he said bluntly. It's just temporary. You can afford it. It's family. I lowered my voice, calm and unyielding, as the receptionist pretended not to listen. You're spending the profits of a company you didn't save, inherited from a family that erased the person who saved it. That's not temporary. That's exploitation. His face flushed with anger. You make everything sound terrible. You're just bitter you didn't get anything. I'm not bitter, I replied. I'm finally balanced. I walked back to my desk and finished my workday, steady and focused. I didn't break down until I got home that night, when I pulled the old company access key off my key ring, the key I'd carried every day for 5 years, the key that represented every sacrifice I'd made. I dropped it into my junk drawer, closed it tight, and locked the past away for good. The next morning, my dad called. He never called unless something was truly wrong. He asked me to meet him at our old family diner, the one we'd eaten at every Sunday when I was a kid. No family, no audience, just us. That I arrived first. He sat in the corner booth, staring at his coffee, his shoulders hunched with guilt. For a long while, we just sat in silence, talking about nothing: weather, the diner's new menu, the neighbor's lawn. Then he finally set his cup down and told me the truth no one had ever let me hear. "Your grandfather built that company with his bare hands," he said quietly. "When I was your age, I ran it into the ground once. Your grandma bailed me out, worked double shifts for years to fix my mistakes. And when they passed, your Aunt Marnie acted like she deserved all the reward because she was the oldest child. She never worked a day in the business, never sacrificed a thing. But your mom and I let her convince us that need matters more than effort." He looked me straight in the eyes, his voice shaky with regret. "Your mom spent her whole life feeling unappreciated, invisible, overlooked. She thought if she gave everything to Jax, if she prioritized his need over your effort, she'd finally have the family loyalty she never got. She wasn't trying to hurt you, baby. She was trying to rewrite her own pain. She just did it at your expense." I sat with that truth for a long time. My mom wasn't a villain. She was a wounded woman who'd learned the wrong lesson from her own trauma. Instead of stopping the cycle of sacrifice without reward, she passed it down to me. It didn't excuse her choices, but it explained every single one of them. "That I'm going to fix this," my dad said, reaching across the table to hold my hand. "Give me a little time. I'll make it right." But time wasn't on his side. For years, the stress of the failing company, the fighting, the guilt had worn his body down. His blood pressure was dangerously high, his heart strained. I'd known it for months, but no one in the family wanted to face it. Weeks turned into months, and the family's financial crisis spiraled fast. Without my monthly transfers and financial management, the company crumbled. Employees' salaries were late. Office rent went unpaid. Utility companies threatened cutoffs. The bank issued formal late notices, default warnings, pending asset seizure. My family refused to take responsibility. My mom told relatives the bank had made a mistake. Marnie held secret family meetings I wasn't invited to, and their final verdict was always the same: Clara will come back. She always does. They saw me not as a daughter, but as a safety net, a utility, a guaranteed backup plan. Jax, the sole heir to every asset, spent every remaining dollar on luxury purchases and never contributed a single cent to save the business he'd inherited. Then came the 2 a.m. call I'd always dreaded. My mom's voice, broken and terrified: "No more pride, no more manipulation. It's your dad. Ambulance is here. Hurry." I dressed in 2 minutes and drove 20 minutes through the dark night, my mind blank of anger, blank of betrayal. All I could think was that the dad who tried to apologize with a key and a promise was dying. The ER was cold and bright, filled with beeping monitors and quiet urgency. The doctor pulled me aside and told me he'd suffered a severe stress-induced heart attack, years of unmanaged pressure finally breaking his body. My mom stood in the hallway, her face pale and tight, and the first words she spoke to me were not pleas for help, not fear for her husband. They were transactional, cold, unfeeling. "Did you bring your checkbook? We need money for the medical bills and the company." I stood perfectly still, my voice steady and final. "I only brought myself. That's all I have left to give." Hours later, my dad woke up for a few minutes, weak and barely conscious. He motioned me close, and I knelt beside his hospital bed, pressing my ear to his lips to hear his quiet words. He didn't talk about the company, the assets, the fight. He didn't apologize. He spoke one truth he'd spent years hiding: that you were never the backup plan, Clara. You were always the best part of this family. He fell asleep moments later, and 2 days after that, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. He never got the chance to fix what he'd broken. He never got to make it right. Grief does not reconcile ledgers. I do that for a living, but I could not balance the scales of his love and his silence, his care and his failure. Then, at his funeral reception, surrounded by grieving relatives and quiet condolences, I overheard Marnie on her phone in the church hallway, her voice sharp and calculating, before my dad was even buried. She was calling the family lawyer, asking one cold, selfish question. Does Ray's passing change the trust? Do we need to redistribute the assets now? My father's life mattered less to her than the inheritance. Less than the company, less than the assets, less than Jax's future. During the eulogy, Marnie painted herself as the loyal, devoted family member, then turned to the crowd, her voice loud and performative. Some of us stayed loyal to this family through every hard time. Some of us chose selfishness and money over our dying father and failing family business. Every head in the room turned to me. The judgment was thick, the whispers immediate. They all believed I was the villain. I didn't defend myself in anger. I spoke in a quiet, clear voice, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Ask Marnie and my mom why the family company needed $2,800 a month in emergency transfers for 5 years. Ask them who broke the business in the first place. The room went dead silent. No one in the extended family knew the truth about Jax's destruction, about my 5 years of unpaid sacrifice. After the service, my oldest cousin pulled me aside, confused and curious. What transfers, Clara? What happened? I pulled out my phone, opened my 5-year bank history, and turned the screen to face him. I showed him the endless line of monthly transfers, every single payment, every date, every amount. I laid out the full story, Jax's reckless mismanagement, the company's collapse, my resignation from my career, my 5 years of saving their business, the secret asset transfer, the intentional erasure of my existence. One cousin who worked in real estate pulled up the official county and state business records during her lunch break the next day. Every detail I shared was verified, documented, public record. She posted the legal filings to the family group chat with no caption, just proof. The family narrative flipped overnight. The group chat stayed silent for an entire day, a rarity for my loud, judgmental relatives. Then the questions started, all directed at Marnie and Jax. Marnie tried to defend them, calling it a family investment, calling me bitter, calling my receipts twisted lies. But numbers don't lie. Records don't lie. 5 years of bank transfers don't lie. One by one, my family members apologized. The cousins who judged me texted long, remorseful messages. The distant relatives who'd unfollowed me reached out to make amends. Even Jax's girlfriend texted me privately, ashamed and apologetic. I had no idea you sacrificed everything for them. I'm so sorry they did this to you. Vindication tasted bitter, not sweet. Being right doesn't erase 5 years of lost time, lost money, lost dreams. A month later, the official court notices arrived. The family company was officially in default. All rental assets were scheduled for county seizure and public auction. The business my grandfather built, the business I'd saved, was collapsing without my labor and money. My mom and Marnie tried every escape route. They begged family members for loans, but no one was willing to pour money into a lost cause. They tried to sell the assets privately, but the default status scared off every buyer. Jax, the sole heir, had no savings, no income, no ability to fix the mess he'd created. His luxury down payments were forfeited, his credit cards maxed out, his perfect future crumbling fast. For weeks, they scrambled, fought, and blamed each other. Marnie blamed my mom for trusting me to walk away. My mom blamed Marnie for pushing the asset transfer. Jax blamed everyone but himself. But through all the fighting, all the panic, all the desperation, not one of them called me to apologize. Not one of them admitted they were wrong. They only called when they had no other options left. On a cold December afternoon, I received a call from our family lawyer. They wanted a meeting. They had an offer. I want you to be honest in the comments right now. If you were in my shoes, after 5 years of sacrifice and betrayal, would you have paid to save the family company that was stolen from you? Would you have bailed them out one last time? Stay with me, because this ending changes everything. We met in the same small conference room, the same room where they'd erased me months before. The same coffee pot, the same polished table, the same cold silence. My mom sat there with red, tired eyes. Marnie was quiet and defeated, no longer smug. Jax looked pale and panicked, his perfect facade shattered. Mr. Hale laid out the official offer plainly. The company and assets could still be saved before the public auction. All back payments, late fees, legal penalties, and default balances totaled exactly $22,000. If I paid the full amount that day, my mom would sign a legal amendment to the trust. Every company share, every rental asset, every single thing would be legally transferred to me, full and permanent ownership. Everything I'd spent 5 years saving would finally be mine. The folder sat on the table in front of me, fully drafted, fully witnessed, ready for signature. My mom reached across the table, grabbed my hand, her voice soft and pleading, repeating the same lie that had broken me once before. "See, baby. It was always going to be yours. Nothing changes. We just needed Jax to have hope." In that moment, everyone in the room thought they were offering me a happy ending. Reconciliation, redemption, the legacy I'd earned. But I'm an analyst. I don't see happy endings, I see balance sheets, transactions, and fine print. That I went home that night and made my 2-column list, the way I always do for every high-stakes decision. Column A, pay $22,000, save the company, gain full ownership, repair my relationship with my mom, reclaim the family legacy. Column B, walk away, keep my money, lose the company, lose the last threads of my family bond. I stared at the columns until midnight, and I saw the truth everyone else missed. Column A was full of beautiful nouns: company, legacy, family, home. Column B was full of unshakable facts: 5 years of unpaid labor, zero gratitude, intentional betrayal, endless exploitation, a family that only loved my utility, not my person. The deal wasn't giving me the company. It was selling me back my own dignity for $22,000. It was forcing me to reactivate my role as the family's permanent financial savior, to go back to working 60-hour weeks, to keep sacrificing my life for people who would never value me. It was the same cycle, just with a legal title as a fake reward. That night, I found a hidden box in my closet, a box I'd packed away years before. Inside was the old business plan I'd written at 27, the plan for my own independent financial consulting firm, the dream I'd abandoned to save my family. Taped to the front was a note my dad had written me years ago, before the greed and the lies took over. "Your hard work deserves to be yours alone." That was the truth he'd always tried to tell me, even when he couldn't say it out loud. The next afternoon, I walked back into the conference room with a single white envelope in my hand. They all watched me, hopeful and relieved, convinced I'd agree to their deal. My mom's eyes glistened with tears. Marnie relaxed her tense shoulders. Jax exhaled like his future was saved. I slid the envelope across the table. Inside was not a check. It was a printed 5-year financial reconciliation report, every monthly transfer listed line by line, every sacrifice itemized, every dollar I'd poured into their family. At the bottom of the page, in bold font, was my final official line item: paid in full. All familial and financial obligations discharged. Beneath the paper, I set the old grandfather's office key, the last physical piece of my loyalty to their family legacy. That I spoke in my calm, professional audit tone, clear and unwavering. I'm not paying the $22,000. I'm not signing the amendment. I'm not taking back the company. Marnie gasped, sharp and outraged. Jax's face crumpled in shock. My mom stared at me, broken and confused. That I kept speaking, steady and sure. "You're not selling me a company today. You're selling me back my prison. I already paid 5 years of my life for a family that gave me nothing in return. I'm not renewing my sentence." I turned to Marnie directly, echoing her own words back to her. "You told me family isn't a ledger. You were right. Family shouldn't track who gives and who takes. But you're the ones who kept a ledger of my debt, who demanded my endless giving, who rewarded greed over every honest sacrifice." Marnie snapped. Her polite, church-friendly demeanor shattered completely. She stood up, voice cracking with rage. "You're selfish. You're ruining our entire family over pride. You ungrateful girl, we raised you. You raised me to pay your bills, I replied quietly. You raised me to sacrifice so your son could be lazy and entitled. You raised me to be a tool, not a daughter. I'm done being your tool. Jack sputtered, desperate and childish. What about the family legacy? What about everything Grandpa built? Grandpa built it with hard work, I said. You tried to inherit it with greed. It was never yours to take, and it was never mine to save forever. Finally, my mom spoke, her voice small and broken, the last defense of her wounded worldview. I sacrificed for my family too. I lost everything for my mom, and no one thanked me. Daughters hold the family up, Clara. That's what we do. I looked at her with gentle, final compassion. Someone should have thanked you, Mom. You don't fix that pain by making me live it too. I thanked the lawyer for his time, turned my back on the chaos, and walked out of the conference room for the last time. And when I stepped outside into the cold winter air, I breathed deeper than I had in 5 whole years. Losing the legacy I'd fought for felt like gaining my freedom. 6 weeks later, the family company and all rental assets were sold at public county auction. An investor bought the entire portfolio for a fraction of its value. The bank took their fees, the court took its penalties, the lawyers took their pay. The leftover money went to my mom, a small, insufficient sum that would never sustain her long term. Jax's perfect future collapsed entirely. His luxury house deposit was forfeited, his credit ruined, his social status erased. His girlfriend left him, tired of his entitlement and failure. He moved out of state to work blue-collar jobs, forced to earn for the first time in his life. Marnie and my mom stopped speaking entirely, fighting bitterly over who was to blame for the collapse of the family legacy they destroyed together. The family gossip circles shifted, and everyone finally saw them for the greedy, unfair women they'd always been. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't feel joy in their pain. I only felt relief to no longer carry a weight that was never mine to bear. I helped my mom downsize into a small, quiet senior apartment close to town. I helped her fill out her financial aid forms, organize her bills, sort her belongings. I did all the quiet, kind family things I've always done. But I never paid another bill for her. I set my boundary clear and kind. I'll love you as your daughter, I told her plainly. But I won't fund your life anymore. I won't pay to be loved. She didn't apologize. She never has. But she's quiet now, softer, less entitled. We have coffee once a week, short and peaceful, talking about small, gentle things, her neighbor's cat, the weather, church events. We don't talk about the company, the assets, the betrayal. We have a small, honest relationship for the first time in my life. This spring, I signed the paperwork for my own business. I launched my independent financial consulting firm, the dream I'd abandoned at 27. My books are clean, my clients are honest, my work is fully mine. I bought a small, quiet house with a home office, a porch, and empty walls I get to fill with my own success. I finished the old business plan my dad inspired, and every day I work for myself, I feel his quiet pride that I've learned the hardest, truest lesson of family and life. Walking away from a debt that was never yours to pay is not abandonment. It is self-respect. Quiet people don't lose when they stop sacrificing. We finally win. If you're someone who spent years silently paying for other people's mistakes, silently carrying other people's burdens, silently loving people who only use you, you are allowed to close the account. You are allowed to choose yourself. Drop a comment below. Would you have bailed them out? Would you have walked away? Subscribe for more quiet drama stories of people who finally found their voice and their boundaries. Hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next.